This Green Day Good Riddance guitar lesson will show you how to play an easy strum arrangement that works well for a one-person strum or sing-along performance. Along with chord diagrams and an accompanying guitar karaoke practice video, we'll cover it all with a step-by-step approach. We'll start by covering the chord shapes we're going to play, and in Good Riddance there are only 4 chord shapes to use for the whole song, starting with a G chord. For this G chord voicing, we're going to keep our 3rd and 4th fingers anchored on the top 2 strings along the 3rd fret like so. That's going to be the first chord, G. And then for the next chord, which is going to be a C add 9, we're going to keep our 3 and 4 fingers anchored, and we're just going to shift the 1 and 2 fingers up a string, shifting them over. So from 6 and 5 we go to 5 and 4. And that's a C add 9. I'm going to refer to it as C for the rest of the lesson, just makes it easier, less syllables to sort of use. So we've got a C add 9, and then we go to a D chord. I would think D. For those of you who know a regular D shape, we're taking those 1 and 2 fingers as if we're fretting a D chord. We have the pinky down, which technically makes this a D sus4 chord, but we're really going to be aiming for the middle strings more for most of the song, and so that sounds actually a D chord. And again, to save syllables, I'll call this chord shape D. And we're going to later go to an E minor chord shape. Again, the 3 and 4 fingers are going to remain anchored on the top 2 strings. Think E minor with the 1 and 2 fingers. Technically that's an E minor 7th. We're going to call that E minor to save syllables again. So, quick review of G, C, D, and E minor. And with that we go into the intro section. The intro section is an A chord progression. It's a 4 chord sequence to start with 2 Gs. We'll do a 1 strum approach to start. And then the C, and then D, and then we'll repeat that 4 chord sequence. Let's jump into the strum pattern now. And the strum pattern is going to remain consistent throughout the whole song. So it's very important early on to get it down. It's going to be down, down, up, up, down for each chord or measure. And if you know what I'm doing, I'm taking my fretting hand, sort of muting it along the strings. It's good to get that sort of percussive kind of feel to help establish a rhythm. And so if you can do this a few times, down, down, up, up, down, 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 up, up, down. Then it makes it a little bit easier when we start strumming the chords. And we're going to start with the G, and let's do that same strum pattern for 2 measures of G. We'll do a slow walk through. 1, 2, ready, go. And one note is through most of the song, we're really going to focus more on the middle strings and the bass notes, not necessarily the top string. We want our pinky down in case we accidentally strum and include that top string. We want to sound in key. You're really aiming for kind of stop on that 2nd string. So with that, let's go and do the G chord again 2 times in a row. 1, 2, ready, go. And then we go to 1 measure of C, and then 1 measure of D. So the initial 4 chord sequence, G, G, C, D, and then you'll repeat that for an 8 chord sequence, and that's the intro section. So with that, let's review the intro with the strum. We'll do a slow walk through. 1, 2, ready, go. The verse section is a 16 chord sequence, but it's easy to memorize because it begins with what we just covered, the intro progression, that 8-chord progression of G, G, C, D, played twice. So what we can do now is jump into the second half right away. The second half of the verse, we'll go to that E minor chord, starting with the 4-chord sequence of E minor, D, C, and G, and that is played twice. So that'll be an 8-chord sequence that you simply connect to the 8-chord progression we already know. We're going to do that in a second, but let's strum through this new progression of E minor, D, C, G twice, and let's review that right now with the slow walkthrough. 1, 2, ready, go. Once you have the strum pattern down, the next step, if you're going to sing along and play, is to focus on timing or syncing the lyrics with the chord changes. And if you haven't done that a lot, we've got a couple of pointers here on how to work on that timing. The first thing to focus on is to land certain lyrics or syllables on the initial down strum with each measure. And what we're going to do is starting with that first G. That first G strum, actually, nothing lands on it. The opening lyrics, another turning point, it's a little bit delayed. So step one is you don't start singing around that first down strum. It's a little bit delayed. It sounds like this. Another. And then after that, we start landing the initial down strums on certain syllables. I'll back it up again from the beginning and show you what lands on what. So we go another, then turning point, a fork stuck in the road. And then again, as we repeat it, there's that delay. Time grabs you by the wrist and directs you where to go. Another approach that'll help with timing lyrics is to go back to the muted approach we did earlier with the strings and to work on the strum pattern while saying the lyrics. So you're sort of like your own drummer while you're saying the lyrics. Again, it helps with timing. Let me show you an example of it. We'll go through the first 2 lines. Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So that combined with a slow strum approach, again, this is for those of you who don't do a lot of singing or haven't done a lot of singing, that should help with the timing. And that's what we'll do with the next clip. We'll review the complete verse section with a slow strum approach. For the chorus, we'll start with a 4-chord progression. It's going to be E minor to G, and then repeat it. For this transition, one way to make it a little easier is to just use one finger. Here's what I mean. From E minor to G, you just take your middle or second finger and go down to the bottom string 3rd fret for the bass note G, for the G chord. You keep your first finger anchored on that 5th string 2nd fret. some of you, that might be a bit of a stretch with the fingers, so nothing wrong with going back to that initial G chord shape either for this progression. And after that, we've got E minor, G. That is a 4-chord sequence. And then we've got 2 more chords, E minor and D. And then I'm going to add in a G. I would say technically the chorus is 6 chords, but we're going to end with a G just to give you a sense of arrangement and what leads into the next section. We're going to run through the chorus right now with a 1-strum approach. We're going to also focus on how to time the lyrics with the chord changes, certain syllables. Check this out. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. You can see where that G makes sense. The G again leads into another section, but that's how the chorus will sound. And in the next clip, we'll apply the strum pattern with the slow walkthrough. And then in the following clip, we'll put it all together, the intro, the first verse, and the chorus all put together, also with the slow review. Verse 2, guitar-wise, will be the same as verse 1. We just have different lyrics that we need to work on syncing with the chord changes. And then the second chorus of the song is exactly the same as the first chorus. So what we'll do with the next clip, we'll do another review where you want to focus on syncing the lyrics with the chord changes. We'll connect verse 2 with the second chorus. And we'll also speed up the tempo just a little bit. In between every verse of the song, there's an interlude section played. It's an 8-chord sequence. It's the same progression as the song's intro. So with that in mind, it's a good idea to know that the terms interlude or intro are interchangeable. They mean the same thing. And with that, we can start talking about the song's arrangement now. In other words, putting everything together. And so far, we've got the intro, verse 1 in the first chorus. That'll be followed by an interlude, again repeating the intro, followed by verse 2 and the second chorus. And with that, we go into verse 3, which again will start with another interlude. But on the original recording of Good Riddance, verse 3 features a string section playing. There are no vocals in this section. So for a one-person performance, you might want to delete that. You could just simply strum through verse 3. It's the same progression as the first two verses, but one suggestion to make it a little bit more interesting for a one-person performance, delete verse 3. And so after the first two verses, for the third section, I would do an interlude and connect that to the third chorus. Third chorus strummed and sung the same as the first two choruses. And another note on the interlude section, again for a one-person performance, to make things a little bit more interesting. I mentioned this earlier, you really want to focus on the middle strings. If you focus too much on the top strings, I think that interferes with the range for vocals, but also the only way to hear the difference between chords is to focus on the bass notes. So as you're strumming through, you're focusing on the bass notes and the middle strings. But for the interlude section, I would suggest to include the top strings. Let me back it up a little bit to the end of a verse. Hope you had the time of your, now we're focusing on the middle strings, life. And as we do an interlude, we brush the top strings. It's just a suggestion, but it makes it a little bit more interesting as far as the strumming goes. And then when you kick into each verse, focus more on the middle strings to change things up a little bit with the strumming. After verse 3 on the original recording, you'll be repeating another interlude, chorus, interlude section. And for a one-person performance, you might want to delete that as well. Maybe one of the interludes and an extra chorus might be a little too much for a one-person performance. I have a suggested arrangement for a one-person strum-along performance showed here. But one thing to talk about is the ending. You're simply going to strum a G chord. And so if you're playing the interlude, here are the last several measures here. You could end with an interlude, or you can actually end a little sooner with the vocals as well. Just again, it's up to you how you do it, but hope you had the time of your life. Another option there on how to end the song for a one-person performance. Once you have each section down, the final step is to put together a complete arrangement or performance of the song. You can do that along with my Good Riddance Karaoke video, where you can either sing along with Good Riddance Karaoke, play guitar with Good Riddance Karaoke, or do both.